Thank you very much, Convener, and good afternoon, First Minister. Following the publication of the committee report on how devolution is changing post-EU, the committee held an event with Strathclyde University Law School to consider the report findings and recommendations. Participants were drawn from a wide range of professional backgrounds, including politicians, Scottish Government, Scottish Parliament officials, public, private sector lawyers and academic public lawyers, political scientists and, in addition, PhD students from across the United Kingdom. The note that was prepared by one of our committee advisers talks of the chilling effect of Ukima on devolved policy making, the shadow of parliamentary sovereignty that gives the UK Government an upper hand in any dispute with devolved governments. And in a general level within the room, there was a broad agreement that the pre-EU withdrawal conditions of consensus and cooperation have broken down. And I'm much interested in the room about whether and how this can be restored. So, First Minister, can consensus and cooperation post-EU be restored?
I'm mindful that the convener will tell me to be brief, so I'll do my best in this question. I know in response to the committee's report, Ms Angus Robertson indicated the Scottish Government's view that there is a need, I think the committee's overall recommendation and conclusion, the need for new intergovernmental relation agreements to reflect the complex and evolving post-Brexit landscape, I think it would be fair to say. My concern really is that the approach of the current administration in the UK is one that seeks to undermine devolution. The Internal Market Act, for me, is an absolute example of that. That's just not my view. Of course, it is a view that's shared by the Welsh Government. Although I've engaged only briefly with the Northern Irish Government, I'd be keen to hear their views around devolution and the current structures in place. And ultimately, it's a far cry from from how previous Prime Ministers have approached this issue. If I take, for example, David Cameron's government, of course, Lord Cameron now, there was fundamental disagreements, of course, on a whole range of policy issues, constitution, of course, included. Yet we had two governments that were able to get to a position where the democratic will of the people of Scotland and the devolution settlement of this Parliament was respected, sitting around the table. Let's take the most contentious issue of the constitution, and there was agreement there. The Edinburgh Agreement, which allowed, of course, a referendum to then take place, even though we had diametrically opposing views of that issue. It would be a far, far cry away from that, where devolution, in my mind, in the mind of many experts, seems to be undermined, not just with the Internal Market Act, but the uses of, for example, Section 35 powers. So there is a significant concern around overreach, and that's why I agree with the committee's overall conclusion that new intergovernmental relation agreements are needed to reflect that very complex and evolving post-Brexit landscape. Thank you for that answer, First Minister.
There has been concern raised, as you say rightly, and I'm involved in a couple of interparliamentary forums. We now have Stormont back up and running. These concerns have also been raised by House of Lords committees as well. One of the suggestions is that and a paper by Gordon Brown recently as well, that some of the conventions be put into statute, like the Seoul Convention. Do you think post the UK election there might be an opportunity to examine how we might move forward with a review of how we operate post-EU?
Because it's certainly my hope that there's an improved relationship if there is an incoming UK Labour government. If there was, unlikely as it may seem, if there was even a continuation of the current UK government post-general election, I would hope that it wouldn't take a general election for there to be a change in approach. I hope that the current UK government could, the current party within government at UK level could look at the damage that's being done to devolution more broadly and the undermining of our institutions more broadly by their actions, and just take a different approach now would be far better than having to wait for an election and then a potential incoming new government. For me, the Seoul Convention is just the absolute example, as well as the Internal Market Act. The Seoul Convention a real example of the fundamental undermining of our devolution structures. And it's not just myself. Previous Welsh First Minister Mark Drakeford regularly raised concern of the fact that the Seoul Convention was breached time and time and time again, not just issues related to Brexit, but often when it came to Brexit-related legislation. I will look at good ideas wherever they come from. If it's in Gordon Brown's piece of work, which I think has some merit. I don't think it goes nearly far as it probably should. I have a great deal of respect for Gordon Brown and the work that he has done, but I don't think it goes far enough. And we've already seen some examples of where the UK Labour Party are already rolling back on some of those recommendations from the Brown report. Look, whichever party is in power, be it in the UK government or indeed in the Scottish government, it's really important that there's the appropriate mechanisms in place for good intergovernmental relations.
Thank you, First Minister. I'm looking to Convener. Can I ask them briefly, Nick, on another subject? First Minister, you committed to increase the Scottish Government's investment in arts and culture by £100 million by 2028-29. The culture sector has experienced what has been termed the perfect storm with COVID and Brexit, and also with the cost of living crisis. Are you able to give any detail or what your priorities will be for that spend going forward for our culture sector?
So there has been an increase, obviously, in next year's budget in terms of the culture sector. That's the first down payment, if you'd like, on that £100 million that we have promised by financial year 28-29, and in 2025-26 will aim to provide an additional £25 million to the culture sector. So we're trying to give some forward look in terms of additionality coming forward. So it allows the culture sector to plan and to thrive going forward. I don't need to tell Claire Adamson at all about the value of the culture sector, not just here at home but abroad as well. And that increase is coming despite a very challenging budget situation, as I've already referenced as well. So through this increased investment, we want to drive up participation, in particular, in creative pursuits. We want to support the production of new works as well. And crucially, as I've already referenced, we want to ensure that Scotland's cultural output has not just platforms at home, but also crucially abroad as well.